The first anomaly was not the voice. It was the rain. At 2:17 in the morning, the emergency line in Belden County received a call from a landline registered to a demolished farmhouse on Crow Mile Road. The dispatcher, Mara Voss, heard hard rain striking a roof, though every weather station in the county showed a clear sky. Then a man whispered, very calmly, that the storm would arrive at 4:03 tomorrow afternoon, and that by then, the walls would have learned all their names. Case file TR 688 was opened 6 hours later, when the county surveyor confirmed that the farmhouse had been torn down 11 years before. Its replacement was still only a poured foundation and a pile of wrapped lumber behind a chain-link fence. Mara said the caller did not ask for help. He gave instructions. Do not let the builders install the 9th interior door. Do not read any name written under the insulation. If the house asks about the children, say they are already sleeping. Then the line clicked, and the rain stopped in her headset. By sunrise, Mara had convinced herself the call was a prank. By noon, she had printed the recording and placed it in a folder nobody requested. By 4:03 the following afternoon, the sky over Crow Mile Road went black, and rain fell only on the empty foundation. Witnesses described it as a column of weather. The storm did not drift. It stood upright over the construction site, like something being poured from a hole in the clouds. The lumber darkened. The concrete steamed. And beneath the hammering rain, the crew heard a telephone ringing underground. The foreman, Dale Prent, found the phone inside a plastic vapor barrier beneath the slab. It was an old beige kitchen handset, its cord running down into wet concrete that should have been solid. When Dale lifted it, he heard his own voice from the receiver, older by many years, telling him to run before the house remembered his wife. He did not run. That decision is why the registry has a file. Construction continued under county order after the storm passed. No one wanted to admit that a weather event had obeyed a phone call. No one wanted a half-built structure on Crow Mile Road becoming a local shrine for teenagers and grief. The developer replaced the wet lumber, poured a repair layer over the slab, and brought in a second crew from another town. On the third day, they found names written on the underside of every insulation roll. Not printed, written. Pencil, blue marker, lipstick, mud. Each name belonged to someone who would eventually enter the house. Some were workers, some were inspectors. One was Mara Voss, who had not told anyone she planned to visit. Beside her name were 3 words. She answers twice. Mara arrived at dusk with a county deputy and the original call recording on her phone. She said the place smelled wrong, not rotten, not chemical. It smelled like a room after a stranger has been sleeping in it. The frame was up by then. Exterior walls, roof trusses, temporary stairs. In the western wall, where the plans showed 8 interior doorways for bedrooms, closets, and baths, the crew had framed a 9th. No one remembered cutting it. It stood between studs that should have been load-bearing. Behind it was not another room, because there was no wall yet, only open air and the red mud of the lot. But when Mara looked through the frame, she saw a hallway with family photographs hanging crookedly along both sides. The deputy saw only rain. Mara stepped closer. The photographs were blurred, as though faces had been rubbed away by wet fingers. One frame showed her dispatch desk. Another showed her mother's kitchen. The last showed Cromile Road at night, with a light burning in a completed upstairs window. From somewhere inside the unbuilt hallway, the beige telephone rang. This is where the witness statement begins to fracture. Mara says she never crossed the threshold. The deputy says she did. The foreman says she was already on the other side when they noticed the door frame had a door in it, painted white, with a brass number 9 screwed at eye level. The door opened inward by itself. The voice from the emergency call spoke through the rain. It said, "Tell them the children are already sleeping." Mara answered because dispatchers answer. She said the sentence exactly. The house exhaled. Every nail in the frame backed out half an inch. Every sheet of plywood bowed as if something had leaned against it from the inside. The crew fled when they heard footsteps overhead, though there was no second-floor deck yet. Mara remained. Later, she would say the sound was not footsteps. It was counting. 1 footfall for every person who had entered the property since demolition. 1 footfall for the surveyor. 1 for the developer. 1 for the child who had thrown a rock at the foundation in April. The house was not haunted by the dead. It was rehearsing the living. At 9:40 that night, the emergency line rang again. Mara was standing in the unfinished doorway when her own station called her phone. The caller ID showed Belden County Dispatch. The audio log captured both ends of the conversation, although Mara's cell carrier insists no call was placed. On the recording, Mara hears herself speaking from tomorrow. The future Mara sounds exhausted. She tells present Mara that the house will be completed no matter what they do. If they burn it, the smoke will fring the rooms. If they bury it, the basement will open under another home. If they refuse to name it, the county map will print the address by mistake. Then future Mara says something that caused the registry to classify the file as active. She says, "Do not rescue me when I call back." At 10:12, Dale Prent entered the 9th doorway with a crowbar. He intended to tear it out. The body camera on the deputy's uniform shows Dale raising the tool, then pausing. His expression changes from anger to embarrassment, as if he has walked into a private room by accident. He says, "I'm sorry. I didn't know you were all in here." The camera catches 1 frame beyond his shoulder. A dining room table stretches into darkness. Around it sit wet figures, wearing the reflective vests of construction workers, county employees, and people not yet identified. Their faces are turned down toward empty plates. At the head of the table is Dale's wife, alive at home and asleep according to later phone records, spooning rainwater into a bowl. Dale stepped inside. The 9th door closed. When the crew tore the frame apart in panic, there was only open air behind it. Dale's crowbar lay in the mud. The brass number 9 was hot enough to blister skin. 3 days later, Dale returned home. He was found standing on his porch in dry clothes, holding a lunchbox packed with wet insulation. He had been missing for 71 hours. He believed he had worked a full shift. He asked why everyone looked so old. Medical examination found no injury except for 11 small punctures along his spine, evenly spaced, as if someone had attached him to a wall. He refused to discuss the dining room. He would only repeat that the house was polite if you obeyed it, and lonely if you didn't. The registry intervened after the second storm column formed. Agents arrived with a demolition order, 3 independent survey maps, and a portable generator powering floodlights around the site. They documented 6 impossible features before midnight. A basement staircase descending from bare dirt, wallpaper visible through exterior sheathing, a child's height chart marked with dates from the following decade, a pantry shelf stocked with jars labeled with the names of local families, a mirror reflecting a completed living room full of people listening at the walls, and a telephone jack bleeding rainwater. The official containment protocol was simple. Remove the 9th door. Remove all names. Keep the house unfinished. It failed because the house learned the protocol as soon as it was spoken. By morning, every worker on site had dreamed of signing closing documents. The developer woke with a key under his tongue. Mara woke to find drywall dust on her shoes and a voicemail from herself saying, "We moved in yesterday." The county records office received an automatic update listing the property as occupied by the Voss family, though Mara lived alone and had never applied for purchase. Tax documents showed payment in full. Utility records showed 30 years of usage. School bus records showed 2 children picked up at the address every weekday since 1998. There were no children. But when agents reviewed the foundation footage, they heard them laughing beneath the rain. On the 7th day, the registry stopped trying to destroy the structure. Instead, they completed it incorrectly. Rooms were built with doors leading to brick. Windows faced interior closets. Staircases rose into sealed plaster. The 9th doorway was framed and reframed until it opened only into a wall of mirrors. Each mirror angled to reflect another mirror, trapping the image of a hallway with nowhere to arrive. Mara volunteered to make the final call. At 4:03 in the afternoon, standing in the kitchen of the almost house, she lifted the beige handset from a counter no one had installed. The line connected to Bedford County Dispatch, 2 days in the past. She gave the warning exactly as she had received it. Do not let the builders install the 9th interior door. Do not read any name written under the insulation. If the house asks about the children, say they are already sleeping. Then she listened to her younger self breathe. Registry audio technicians say there is another sound under the call. Too low for ordinary speakers. It resembles rain, but patterned. It rises and falls around Mara's words like a mouth learning to pronounce them. Cromile Road is still listed as vacant land. Satellite images show only scrub grass and a rectangular foundation filled with rainwater. But delivery drivers occasionally report a completed white house at dusk, with lights in every window, and a woman on the porch holding a phone. If approached, She smiles and raises one finger to her lips. Behind her, from somewhere upstairs, children whisper the names of everyone standing outside. The registry's final note is not a closure statement. It is a routing instruction for dispatch centers within 50 miles. If a demolished address calls during clear weather, do not answer twice.